going to games is where you really get a sense of the culture around the sport and what it takes to be a fan, and the sights and the smells and the sounds, and you make memories, and that's what keeps you coming back to sports even when your team is down in the dumps. I had a privilege about a month or two ago to sweat it out in the bleachers at Yankee Stadium. I went out on a Saturday with Madeline Burke, who's going to be joining the show a little bit later. Madeline covers the Giants in New York and works for MSG. And we went out to the Yankee Stadium in the Bronx on a Saturday with my cousin Chris from Wisconsin, who went to the University of Wisconsin. He's from Chicago area. And it was Lord of the Flies vibes in the bleachers. I don't know if you guys have been bleacher creatures anytime recently.
Yeah,
or?
Not recently.
No,
but I mean,
you're a Diamond Club guy now, Brockman. I get it.
I sit lower level. It's all good now. But back in the day, I was at the bleachers in Fenway, and it's every man for himself.
Yeah, and now the reason why I call it Lord of the Flies energy is because the day that I was there, being that I am a man, I was forced to take my shirt off at the game. It's very intense being at Yankee Stadium, where around the 8th inning, you hear somebody in the back, green shirt, green shirt, green shirt. And the only way to appease the mob was to take off your shirt. And there's thunderous applause, and then they go on to the next guy. They were trying to get the cop to take off his shirt in Yankee Stadium. That didn't work out. No. But it's just so... Now, I don't even remember who won the game. I don't remember who the Yankees were playing. But I'll never forget that day in the Bronx with my cousin and Madeline and my buddy Louie. And it's these memories you make as sports fans that I think keep you coming back. There he is. There's my cousin Chris. He was loving it out in the Bronx. Beautiful day at Yankee Stadium. That was with our shirts on. That was probably like the 5th inning. 7th inning it was when the Lord of the Flies vibes got in. But it got me thinking about the greatest games I've had the privilege of attending as a fan. Sometimes it's a game that you're so excited for. It's got playoff implications, or it's a championship game, and it's your favorite team, so there's a buildup. Other times, it's just a random Thursday and you're going to the ballpark. That's what happened when I went to the Clayton Kershaw no-hitter. Went to Wexler's Delis, picked up some pastrami sandwiches, cruised out to Chavez Ravine, and next thing you know, I'm there in the building for Clayton's no-no. Probably the greatest baseball game I've ever been to.
That's incredible.
How cool is that? You ever been to a no-hitter? I think about it every time I'm at a game.
I've never been a no-hitter. I've covered a high school no-hitter way back in the day when I was a newspaper reporter, but that's really it. No pro, no nothing.
Did you chastise the team in high school if it was like a collective no-hitter where there were multiple pitchers?
No,
You're like, this doesn't count, kids.
It was one guy, but I would have told them that it didn't count. Yeah, of course. You got to stay consistent.
So, there's a difference in those games. A game that you randomly show up to and it turns out to be a magical night, or a game that you're really eagerly anticipating. I remember the most disappointing I've ever had the disappointing experience I've ever had as a fan is when I went to I was an Eagles fan then. I went to the last game at the Vet, the old Vet, sat in the upper deck, the 700 level of the Vet, spent like $400 or $500 on tickets at the time. That was everything I had, I think. And Joe Jurevicius scored 2 touchdowns and Ja Rule's booed at halftime, and the Eagles lost to Keyshawn Johnson in Tampa Bay. That was a tough train ride home with the Philly faithful that night. But I wonder for you guys, what's the greatest sporting event you've ever been to? Either one that lived up to the hype or one that you just happened to walk into the building that night?
Wow, Mike, I mean, you've been to more great games.
So many.
Than we
Not
have.
where you sat in the truck
but
and you worked the board and got a promotional fleece.
I would say,
Mike,
I would say buy a ticket you paid for. I think that's the rule. You can't just be like, oh, I got a pass and I went and saw Tyrese catch.
86 Mets Buckner game.
Ugh.
I can't believe you were at that game.
And the win the next game.
That makes me not want to be friends with you.
What was the aftermath like? What was the 7 train
It
ride
was
home?
Nuts. I remember because I think we drove in. I think we drove in that night. And I know we took the train, one of them.
There's a lot of Billy Joel blasting out of the stereo on that car ride home.
The old Che where you'd have to walk up that out in center for you to see where the train was.
So funny how the universe works, Mike, is that now here we are 28 years later, and on that night I think back to being 6 years old at Disney World and my father passed out in the shower.
Oh.
I had muscle men. Remember those little action figures, little muscle men?
Yes.
And he lined up 27 of them on the coffee table. And to this day, at the Orlando Davy Crockett Hotel or whatever it was, the Wild Frontier Hotel, my father swears there is one muscle man sitting on the desk for that Buckner out.
That's it.
How about you, Brockman? What's the greatest game you've ever been to as a fan?
I don't know. I think about The only Super Bowl I've ever been to was Eagles, Patriots in Minnesota. That ended up being a phenomenal game, even though, the team that I root for didn't win.
Well, that game was over when the players ran onto the field, because when they played the Meek Mill intro, I was like, oh, I just lost all my money on the Patriots because Philadelphia's going to win this game.
Yeah, Meek Mill was also it's tight with Bob Kraft, so it's like kind of a weird, Super Bowl for him. I was at Game 7 of the 18 Eastern Conference Finals in Boston with LeBron and Jason Tatum going back and forth to each other. And
You saw the Sox win.
I saw the Sox win, but it wasn't like a great game or anything. Game 5 out here in Dodger Stadium in 2018.
You saw the Red Sox win the World Series. You were in the building
I was
when
in
the
the
Red
building.
Oh my God!
But it
This
wasn't
speaks to the entitlement of Red Sox Nation.
Exactly.
This is
It wasn't a thrilling game.
It was a good,
Also, let's be honest. I knew we were going to win. That's a top 10 all-time team, the 2018 Red Sox. So I knew we were going to win the game.
I can't believe it.
A couple of home
literally
runs in
feel
the
like I got
first
hit by a
inning.
truck.
well, I feel like that with Yankees World Series. I saw like 4 live. It was like now
So
like big
much
deal.
winning
5.
in
It's
your
like,
lives. And my father, after I called him, I'm a Dodger fan, I called him to congratulate him. Thought that was a very big thing for me to do.
Did he tell you to suck it?
Well, he said, they should have swept. He said they should have
They
swept.
should have swept. They lost the 19-inning game.
That's ridiculous. The fact that you guys have 4 World Series now in the last 20 years is just, it's a reminder that there is hope in the universe, that hope is a real thing.
Hope is a real thing. Hope is a good thing.
No, and it
of
actually
course.
plays itself out into forgetting that you were at a World Series game. Like,
I did
that's
forget
ridiculous.
that I was at a World Series.
That's
game.
ridiculous.
I'm so focused on the losses.
I mean, look, for me, the greatest game I've ever been to, I didn't buy a ticket, though, so does it count? I was working the game.
No, you can't.
No.
Because I have that for the
doesn't count.
2000 Open because I'm watching this right
The
now.
Jeremy
Up in
Lin
Pebble
game
Beach.
gave
Can't
Kobe and
count.
the Lakers.
Oh, you
38.
were at that game.
I was at that game. I worked
Yeah,
the
you
blue
can't.
carpet that night. I got to interview The Rock and Idris and Ben Stiller. I was
doesn't
there that night.
count.
Ashanti sang the national anthem, and she was
Ooh.
upset. They put her in the second row, so me and Peter Rosenberg got her seats.
That's fantastic.
That was the best. Got the Ashanti seats at the Jeremy Lin night at the Garden. But yeah, I worked that night, so it doesn't
baby.
count. I think paying with my dad to go over to those Red Sox Yankee games in London, that was probably the
that's
best
cool.
games I ever got to go to and the most fun I had at an event. But tonight that could change. We could see something special down at Crypto where we go to this crazy Sparks game and it's just a night we never forget. Who knows, TJ? That's what's so great about sports.
TJ, you've been to a lot of games. What are
Yeah, what's the
yours?
greatest
Yeah.
game you've ever been to?
Yeah, I've been trying to think about this. I've been to a ton of games, but I can't think of any championship games. I tell you, one of the most memorable things I ever attended, I wasn't there in person. I watched it on TV. It was 1996 when the Yankees won the World Series, the game clinching.
Yeah, Charlie Hayes caught the ball in the third
Yeah,
base
no,
line.
I was
I was at a bar outside, 16 years old, couldn't get in. Yeah, totally.
I was at an establishment in downtown Pittsburgh where Jenna Jameson was performing, and that was awesome. But like I said, I wasn't there in person. So for person, I would go Super Bowl 42, the David Tyree catch. I was in the building for that Super Bowl. So yeah,
I watched that. I watched that Super Bowl in Cairo. I was covering the movie Jumper. Remember that movie Jumper, where they jumped around the world?
Good movie.
Better junket. We went to Cairo, Rome, London, but I 3:30 kickoff. I ordered all the beers in the hotel and watched it at a little meze platter. It was nice.
Wow.
Did you guys like that story?
I did like the story, and I like how you took
TJ.
the greatest game you've ever been to, turned into a story of you and Jenna Jameson at some bar in Pittsburgh. So that's TJ Jefferson. for
Totally
you, ladies
random.
and gentlemen.
She was at
2007,
the bars all
Patriots perfect season. I was regular season. Me and my friends road trip to Buffalo. Sat in the second row behind the Pats bench. Randy Moss had 4 touchdowns in the first half. That totally random and was awesome.
That's awesome. That's what I'm talking about.
I got
that was
called
nice.
so many slurs in the Bills parking lot. It was totally fine.
Oh man! So yeah, let us know the greatest game you've ever been to. You can hit us up on Twitter. We're on Instagram at Rich Eisen Show. Of course, on YouTube, you can hit us up as well on our call-in line 844-204-RICH 844-204-7424. Going to games and what that does to you as a sports fan. Anytime my father and I hear the song Deo, Deo, we say Deo, we just laugh and laugh and laugh.
And you
Because I
think of
remember
Beetlejuice?
being 9 years old at one of those trough urinals in Fenway.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the truck.
And a guy who probably drank a Wade Boggs level of beers, but wasn't Wade Boggs, pulled up next to us at the trough and started singing Deo. So that song always brings a
couple-
smile to our face. You
couple
know,
weeks
we
ago,
wouldn't
we
have
were
had that
talking
if we were
about that.
sitting on the couch.